what is the notion of solidarity really meaning, or is it an exclusive notion, or how inclusive could that be? It is something that we can find out in every crisis in a very cruel way, I think, in a very capitalist, realistic way, that only some people are saved and the other ones have to look how they can survive. I'm Kevin Rittberger, and I'm a playwright and director too. And so, yeah, most of the time I sit at my desk to write plays or do research, or I also from time to time write articles for different newspapers and magazines. Also do I curate a series of lectures and performances in different theaters, but the last years mostly I write plays. And so one of the last plays I have written was Schwarzer Block, or Black Block. And that was also interesting because we didn't know when we could start rehearsing. It was exactly 1 year ago when the first when we had the first rehearsal, and when we were reading the text the first time, and then nobody knew exactly what was going to happen, when the theaters would be able to open up again, and under which condition we could play. And so the conditions were changing all the time. And I was really happy that in autumn we could present a premiere at Maxim Gorky Theater. And the director, Sebastian Nübling, which I know for a very long time because I was his assistant director a long time ago, he was able to present a version that was both theater and also live video. And the live video was so well done that the recorded performance then could later be used very well for a streaming event that was more than just a recorded theater show, but it was, at the same time, it was kind of, maybe, I hesitate to call it post-pandemic theater. I don't like the word so much because we're not post yet. It's just in the middle of the pandemic. So it was a sort of a pandemic theater, and the premiere was live. There were people in the audience, but then we were only able to do 3 shows, and there were not so much people in the audience because there had to be a distance between people sitting there, and everybody was wearing mask, and then 3 shows were live, and then from then on the shows were streamed. So that was my experience basically with being a playwright during COVID-19. And before that, I wrote a play for Bayerisches Staatsschauspiel Residenztheater Munich, Cassandra Prometheus. Cassandra was also played earlier. I worked on it for the last 10 years. It deals a lot with testimonials from refugees, and I could also present a version of Cassandra in Italy. So yes, these are maybe 2 of the major projects that I've been working on the last years.
For the Black Block production at the Maxim Gorky Theatre, did it change because of the having to be in the pandemic? Did the obviously you wrote it in other conditions. Did the way it was staged, apart from the video, did it have to change?
Yeah, when we started to think about Black Bloc as a play on stage, Sebastian Nübling, the director, he actually planned to do it outside, site-specific, and he was eager to work with a choir or a collective. And he's a director who is very much interested into creating energy of bodies or the assembly of bodies. And so that was one thing that was very important for our process and also for my writing, that many lines of the text were supposed to be working for a collective or a choir. So when we started the rehearsal, it was pretty sure that there are some conditions or rules from the government how to do theater, and a choir was not allowed anymore. Maxim Gorky's stage is not so wide, so on this stage, maximum 4 players were allowed, or better 3 when they would shout. So Sebastian Nübling thought, how can he still use the energy of 15 or 16 performers? So the solution was to play it in the container. At the moment, Maxim Gorky Theater has a container outside. So they removed the seats in the container, and they only used it as a live stage that was recorded then. But still, the 15 performers, they had to keep distance, and they couldn't speak as a choir. So Sebastian, I think he found a really nice way that could still keep the energy of this collective, but they had to say the lines singular, individually, but they were running or going in circles around the camera, and in each one of them would only say a line, and then the next one would come. And this circulation of the energy, I think, created something like a collective. And I was really happy to find out that it wouldn't be a monologue then, or something that would, yes, maybe restrict or remove this idea about a collective energy.
Have you? Let's talk a little bit about the theatre scene in Germany. How have people experienced the pandemic and the closure or the semi-closure of theatres?
The theatres worked very well on finding solutions how to guarantee that theater would still be possible, but at the same time possible in a safe way, that COVID-19 would not spread out in theaters. And there's no proof for any contagious or any reaction in theaters so far. But the theaters, they were the first to be closed. And I found the restrictions for theaters really hard, because they could at the same time guarantee that they would follow the rules. And I found out that theaters were kind of the last to be spoken about, before the government would spoke about, of course, shopping malls and anything that has to do with shopping. That's something that is really disappointing, kind of when you work in the field of arts, that theaters were kind of the last thing that people would talk about. I mean, I kind of understand that in a lockdown, you need a lockdown. But I'm supporting the zero COVID initiative. So I understand that there needs to be, if the numbers are bad and if the people are dying, there needs to be a shutdown. That's pretty sure. But I think the theaters should then not be the only ones who do the shutdown. I think it's also necessary that economy needs a lockdown, and that factories need a lockdown, and that people who are the weakest in our society need to be protected, and there needs to be a real solidarity for people who suffer the most, and not only for these rescue the huge amounts of budget to save shareholders from BMW or people who have their 8,000 euro salary and now only have 6,000 salary, like people who are saved at the moment and people who are not saved, who are left behind. So I think Zero COVID is an initiative claiming to leave no one behind, and so for a theater maker, it's this ambivalence, that on the one hand you would like to open up again because you can guarantee that you would follow the rules, and on the other hand you see that we have this on-off way of dealing with the crisis. And this is clearly not helpful to stop it. At the moment, I think it will not be post-pandemic in spring, not in summer, and maybe not even in autumn. Like post-pandemic in the sense of that we can go back to normality. I think it will not be possible so early. And I think one of the reasons is that we didn't do a real shutdown in on every level and in every area of the society, especially not in the economic.
I know you've just finished making a film and enjoyed the possibility of being creative again. Tell me a little bit about how that went for you.
Maybe that has something to do with what I just said. It was we are celebrating at the moment 150 years of Paris Commune, and I mean Paris Commune has always been the kind of origin of counter politics, let's call it, and also the initial event of a self-governed community with a lot of energy from bottom up. I mean, Marx and Lenin, they had different interpretations on that, but I think it's an interesting event for many people since ever to interpret what was happening there. And so when we celebrate that, we also think about how to rejuvenate or make this energy alive again of the Paris population that was kind of inventing democracy anew. And so I was trying to think about what I could do for this event. I was invited to do something, and some years ago I wrote a text about the life of Emma Goldman. Emma Goldman is an anarchist activist from the US who has been banned from the US in 1917, and she directly went to Russia to experience the Bolshevik Revolution. And after 21 months, she left Russia very disappointed because the commune of Kronstadt very close to Petersburg or Leningrad at that time was destroyed or was annihilated by Trotsky. And the commune of Kronstadt was also trying to call the spirits of the Paris Commune, or imagining a democracy of councils. So we were making a short film on Emma Goldman, and Emma Goldman had a famous friend, Peggy Guggenheim, and Peggy Guggenheim invited Emma Goldman to write her memoirs. So the film was also about the friendship between Guggenheim and Goldman. And I had 8 brilliant actors who had a lot of energy to do this film, and we did a wonderful short film with almost no budget, but everybody was so eager to play and do something, and we were shooting outside in Berlin in many venues, and it was great to leave the desk or the home office for some days. And you can still see the film if somebody is interested. It's called Emma Goldman, Hommage à la Commune.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin. Let me just finish by asking you about what you see for German theatre. You said you don't like the term post-pandemic, and I understand exactly why, but let's hope there will be a time when we can talk about post-pandemic, and I wonder what kind of theatre, what kind of stories people will want, what kind of ways in which theatre may be changed by this experience.
I think there is a development in theaters to go digital, and it already happened before the Corona crisis. And I think the Corona crisis only amplified the entrance of digital technologies into theater. But it would happen anyway, that theater needed to change. And I think what I don't like at the discussion right now is that some people make up this very binary construction that, okay, now presence doesn't work anymore. We only talk about digital presence now. And so I don't see the point why theater, it's a live medium, why it should like abandon or cancel the idea about being a live medium where the audience is live in the same room too. I think this is the very origin and very idea about making theater, and it will always be the quality. And still, I think, because I don't want to sound reactionary and I don't believe that this is the only way to do theater, that digital technologies are like a sister art, maybe Schwesternkunst. Digital theater is there, and it will make theater richer. In what way, we have to find out. Like if there are theater performance in the future where a live audience is present and a non-live present audience in front of the computer is present too. I already mentioned it. I think I want to see it as complementary and not as either or, So I think, this crisis will make theater richer, but at the same time, I think the problem is more that we can be scared or afraid of cuts in the field of arts, because the government spend millions of euros to save economy, and there will be austerity politics for sure, and normally the field the fields of society experience the cuts who are the weakest, and also arts or culture is one of that people don't necessarily reckon as relevant, or so the perspective on what is relevant or necessary, and that culture is also something that nourishes or feeds a society. This perspective didn't change under the present government. Maybe we can hope for a new government that values culture in the same way that it values economy, or housing for refugees and people who can't afford it. Yes.